What's up, guys? It's the Four Horsemen Fantasy Football Podcast. My name is Josh Roman. With me tonight, I have Alex Deviney Stoner. How are you, Alex?
I'm doing great.
You're hearing voice, but if anybody's watching on YouTube, you're not here.
Yeah, I was looking at our analytics on like people that actually watch this. So far in the last month, 28 people have watched a total of 20 minutes. So I think we're okay. I think we're okay.
Good. Perfect. I love it. Hey, I'll take 28. That's okay. And I got Brent Auker. How are you, Brent?
I'm doing good.
Excellent. As you guys can all see, we're missing Joshua Van Cleve tonight. We don't know where he's at. He's not answering text messages.
He was talking to us just an hour ago. So we have lost him.
I hope that he's okay, but the show must go on. So we will continue without him.
And I just want to real quickly. I just want to point out that our stock, our friend stock, if you will, of the actual podcast listeners are much higher than 28 people listening to 20 minutes. So, I mean, I just want to make sure that everybody understands that we just use this as, don't stop listening because oh man, nobody's listening to this podcast. Actually, we've done very, very well for ourselves.
Yes. Thank you for that.
Yeah. Actually in the last week we've had quite a few plays. So, I mean, we're up over 1,200 plays, I think, so far. So yeah, we've had 118 plays this week.
There you go.
Not bad.
And
we're getting out there. We're getting more and more popular.
I'm only like 3 of those.
Yeah.
It was a good show. I liked it.
Yeah.
But so we're gonna kind of be continuing off of last week's show and talking about the mock draft that we did. We'll be especially making fun of Van Cleve's team since he cannot defend himself. First of all, though, I want to leave, and I know I haven't been doing like the random topic or random question, but I was watching the news tonight. And I saw a story that the police were on a chase for a Girl Scout leader who had $15,000 worth of cookies.
Oh,
had you guys seen this?
Wait, what?
Yeah, the police were looking for a Girl Scout leader who is on the run, evidently, with $15,000 worth of Girl Scout cookies.
That's a lot of cookies.
The cookies themselves or the money for the cookies?
It said the cookies themselves. I was curious if anybody else had seen this story because, I mean, I love Girl Scout cookies. Clearly, I enjoy them. But why would you run off with $15,000 worth of Girl Scout cookies?
I know why you'd run off with $15,000, but I don't understand why you run off with $15,000 worth of cookies.
Yeah, because
they sell those on the black market.
That's exactly. Do they have like a better value? Are they $10 a box on the black market?
I don't know. Maybe
are there Girl Scouts in other countries? Yeah,
these out of season Thin Mints are $30 a box now.
I saw that story and I enjoyed it. I thought it was actually kind of funny because at first I was like, $15,000, like that seems like a very little amount to run off with. Like it's $15,000. Sure, that'd be nice to have, but what are you gonna do with that? Like buy a Kia? Like,
hey, no, don't knock it. Don't knock it.
Hey, no, my bad. But $15,000 worth of Girl Scout cookies, like,
is that? I mean, I don't know what this woman looks like, but does that not sound like the most rich white person thing you could possibly do? Is run off with a bunch of Girl Scout cookies? Like, I mean, that's like the most white collar crime I think I've ever heard in my life.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I just wonder if you guys heard about it. Obviously, you don't watch the news, so thanks. Let's have some NFL news though. There was actually something that happened today that was kind of exciting. LeGarrette Blount has signed with the Philadelphia Eagles.
Oh yeah, baby!
Reports that Ryan Matthews is going to be on his way out.
Get out,
Alex! You're clearly happy about this as an Eagles fan.
Absolutely. Like, I mean, all that nonsense about getting a garbage player like Mark Ingram and trading. I mean, it made me sick to my stomach even thinking about it. And then we get. He's kind of a touchdown machine. That what they were really missing was being able to get those goal line carries to get them into the end zone. Mm-hmm. They have that now. Oh, well, also they needed wide receivers, which we'll see how that goes. But
Right.
I mean, I don't know. I'm excited about it because it's a 1-year deal. The guy could get in trouble and get cut by the team. It's not going to hurt the team any. Nothing about it is risky at all. It gives maybe a little cushion for Wendell Smallwood, or even I forget his first name, but Clement. To get some work in and see what they got, because I like their running backs. Then you have, you still have the, how do you say it? Pumphrey, and then, which is basically just, Sproles 2.0. So, I mean, it'll be exciting. I'm interested to see the dynamic and see how they use them.
Yeah, it's one of those rare win-wins. It's good for the football team, and it's good for fantasy. We both want to see that. Brent, what do you think the fantasy spin is on it?
Well, it's when I first initially read it, I'm just like, really? They got LeGarrette Blount? But the more I keep looking into it, the more I keep reading the stats. If they get rid of Ryan Matthews, LeGarrette Blount will be a red zone presence. The guy is just going to be huge in the red zone, because that offense in Philly runs the ball in the red zone. They run the ball inside the 5-yard line. And who's better than LeGarrette Blount? No one.
Nope. Scored 18 touchdowns last year.
Yeah.
Ridiculous.
I will. Well, and the thing is that in McCoy's best year with Philadelphia, he scored 17. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, that's more than any running back for Philadelphia has had in a really long time. So, I mean, even if he got 10, 12, I would be super happy with that. If they can start turning into those, first and goal opportunities into touchdowns and not having to pass it into the end zone, because that's scary. And that's kind of been their thing for a long time, because they haven't, they've wanted to pass because they just haven't had the running game hasn't been very good the last few seasons. So I'm very excited about it.
Right.
Now, do you think the offense chose to run the ball based on their lack of pass catchers on that offense last year?
I mean, really, the fact that they were even competitive last year was shocking to me. I was totally okay with them being a bargain basement team, and they were mediocre. So the fact that they've gotten much better, it tells me, okay, they're in the right direction. And I'm not going to pretend that I think they're going to, win the division, or maybe even not even make the playoffs this year, because usually when you get a lot of new working parts, it takes about 6, maybe 8 games to kind of get all that gel together and get the team really working. But I mean, I'm excited. I mean, I'm excited to see, what what Jeffrey can bring if he can stay on the field. Maybe it was because Cutler threw him into traffic all the time. I don't know. I'm just excited to kind of see the new offense for the Eagles, because their defense is pretty good, and it got better
with that offense too. I know LeGarrette Blount's coming in now, but he's not really known for his passing down roles and third down work. Do you think if Ryan Matthews leaves, and I know Ryan Matthews has kind of a 3-down skill set, but do you think Darren Sproles' value increases with Blount taking over this role and Ryan Matthews potentially leaving town?
Darren Sproles is kind of like the pass-catching version of Frank Gore. Every year I'm like, okay, he's not going to do that much. And then he explodes and has an 89-yard touchdown, and then you're starting to look at him as maybe a legitimate fantasy option. But the fact is that he is way on the other side of 30 at this point. He's 33, isn't he? I mean, he's up there as far as,
LeGarrette Blount's 30 years old now too.
Yeah, I guess that's true. But
like you said, 1 year, very minimal risk.
Yeah. I mean, that's kind of right now their entire – other than the upside of touchdowns, I don't love any of the Eagles running backs as – I like maybe Smallwood or Clement for dynasty, deep dynasty. kind of take a flyer on them. Outside of that, I wouldn't be drafting them as, I mean, definitely not your RB1. I mean, and you're really hoping that Blunt gets those touchdowns, because other than that, I don't think he's going to have much over 1,000 yards if he hits 1,000 yards, because there's a lot of mouths to feed, and it's kind of mediocre. So, I mean, I think that's going to be kind of a fantasy, not wasteland. It's not going to be like Baltimore last year, but I think it's going to be kind of annoying to guess who's going to be the person that carries things.
Yeah, I saw Mike Clay from ESPN put out some projections already for the Eagles running backs. And he had Blunt down for a projected stat line of 204 carries for 842 yards and 8 touchdowns.
I think he could be higher on the touchdowns, but I mean, I was thinking right around like 950. So I mean, it's not that far off as far as the. I mean, the fact is that he's basically kind of on loan for a year, so they can see what they've got, and they're going to want to try to get Smallwood in there. And if Clement makes a team, he's got he's got the measurables. He has the measurables of a 3-down back. So it'll be interesting to see if he makes a team, if he's able to kind of carve out a decent role for himself, because really what we're looking at is him and Smallwood battling as to make a name for themselves, or next year they're going to draft somebody else. They're going to go after somebody else. They're going to do something to kind of fix that.
Yeah. You agree, Brent?
Yeah, absolutely.
So we're going to talk more about our draft that we had, but LeGarrette Blount just went in the 11th round of ours towards the end of it. In a 12-team league, where do you think his value really should be? 8th round?
Yeah.
Things I'm reading is he's a solid running back 2 for fantasy purposes. That might be more of a standard league instead of PPR, but I mean, I could see him probably go as high as maybe the 5th, but his more likely outcome is probably 7th, 8th round. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's a little bump.
Can somebody send me the
I'm doing it right now.
Okay, sweet. I was gonna say, because I've got the last one, which was 10, so I don't have the most recent ones.
I was finishing coloring in my.
I mean, so okay, if we're looking at that, like you said, as early as like 5th, so you would take him. Would you take him over Frank Gore? Anybody?
Yeah, I think I would.
Okay.
I don't think I would, honestly. Now that I think about it, I think I'd probably take Frank Gore.
I mean, I'm just, I can hear the fapping going on right now. You would obviously take Isaiah Crowell over him. What about we got these ones that I think are a little bit more of a discussionary kind of thing. But Amir Abdullah and Dalvin Cook, those two guys. Do you take those guys over Blunt?
That's tough. Yeah, I think
I
I'd
probably
take Blunt over both of those.
I probably take both of those guys over Blunt, just because
I wouldn't take Abdullah.
I would take Abdullah over Cook.
I'm over Abdullah. Like, Cook is a little bit more like, I can see him being the lead back, and there's not a lot there. Like, I mean, Latavius Murray. I don't know. I just have this feeling like I don't know what it is, but I just feel like he's going to lose the starting job, and I think that Dalvin Cook will be that starter. And then, but I was having a discussion actually with some of the people I used to work with at Lids today about the Lions running back situation. I've got a friend that's a Lions fan, and he has put on the rose-colored glasses, and he is all about the players that they have. And he was saying, well, I'd rather have those guys than LeGarrette Blount. I wouldn't. I mean, they're super injury prone, and none of them were effective. So, I'm really over the Detroit running game. I don't really want anything to do with any of them.
I mean, I just think you're giving up on Abdullah a little too soon. I think he gets one more shot at staying healthy. you usually give people a chance.
Pass catcher. Like, he's just a pass catcher. And they already have Theoretic, and Theoretic was better at pass catcher.
He's not just a pass catcher, though. Like, he can run in between the tackles.
I don't know. I'm going to look up his stats because maybe I'm hating on him. I don't know.
Brent, you have feelings on this subject?
I like Blunt better than Abdullah.
Yeah. Do you just hate
I've got to see something from Abdullah. Like, everything we have seen, he's just been injured and fumbles a lot. Can he be productive?
Yeah. He does have fumbling issues.
He has got good hands. I mean, he can run between the tackles. He's a good runner, but if you're not on the field to run, it makes it a little more difficult.
Yeah.
Yeah, gosh, I didn't realize that he only had 18 attempts last year. Like, I mean, seriously though, like,
he got injured really quickly last year.
Yeah, well, but the Colts game in Week 1.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, he had 143 carries for 597 yards in 2015. Like, yeah, I don't know. 2 touchdowns. He's only had 2. Bull.
Yeah,
it's just all I have to say. Like, I'm just like, I don't know. Like, I feel like that's the missing piece for Detroit, and for just like they just are. It feels like the best running back on that team should be Zach Zenner, but they aren't giving him a chance, so he's not really reliable. And I don't know. I mean, I don't like Washington. Abdullah, I feel like is okay, but not great. And then Theoretic is the pass catcher.
Yeah, I mean, that's pretty accurate. But I don't really understand why the Lions wouldn't bring anybody in then. Like, if they don't have a little bit of faith.
I mean, they might not have a lot of faith, but they might just be more focused on getting, I don't know, getting other things going on their defense and things like that. I don't know.
What round did the Lions pick Amir Abdullah in? I can't remember. Was it second round?
I was thinking it was second.
It's a pretty high draft pick.
Yeah, but
it was only 2 years ago.
Actually, no, I don't think it was. It might have been the third. But my friend that is a Detroit fan has pointed out to me that their second round picks are almost always disastrous.
Really?
And it's true. Like, they have the worst luck with second round picks.
He was a second round pick.
Was he a second round pick?
Because
Mikael LaShore was a second round pick. There's a bunch of like
another injury prone guy.
Yeah, well, yeah, and he also got in trouble. They just have a lot of players. Like, he was rattling them off, and I was looking these players up. I'm like, oh my gosh, they really do have a problem in second round. But so I don't know. We'll see. All
right. Well, I guess I could side with Brent and take LeGarrette Blount. I guess he would be maybe safer than both those guys, but
he's going to get touchdowns at least.
Yeah, it's true. He's good at scoring those. And it's obviously going to drop down from 18. I don't think there's any chance he scores 18 again.
But I think 12 is in the realm of possibility.
So if you think he can score 12 touchdowns, are you still only willing to spend a fifth-round pick? Like Spencer Ware, Eddie Lacy, C.J. Anderson?
12 touchdowns is a lot of touchdowns for a running back in this day and age.
It really is. Yeah, like, but if I told you right now, Brent, that he was going to score 12 touchdowns.
I mean, fifth round, easy.
Yeah, I think that's late for it.
Because I think only, 3 running backs did that last year? 4? David Johnson, Le'Veon Bell, LeGarrette Blount. There might have been 1 or 2 more that went over the double-digit mark.
Yeah.
There weren't many.
I know, but I feel like, okay, if I'm drafting, I'm drafting a guy, especially in a league like a dynasty league. I'm drafting him at his floor, not his ceiling.
Right.
Because I'm not going to draft a guy that I'm probably going to have on my team for maybe a season, maybe 2 if he can make it. I'm not going to put in a 5th round pick for him. Like, I'll put in maybe a 7th. And that means that probably means that I end up not getting him. I mean, and that's kind of like, I'm okay with letting him walk because I don't want to pay at his ceiling. I want to pay closer to his floor, which I think his floor is probably around 8 touchdowns. 7 or 8 touchdowns. I think that's a realistic floor as far as if he stays healthy. They have a good quarterback. They've got a couple of they actually have like 3 pretty decent tight ends. They've got some vertical threats now, so hopefully they can get the ball down. And even without those vertical threats last year, they were doing fairly well moving the ball. It was just getting into the end zone. And I think that he's kind of that piece that will help, because Ryan Matthews is not good, flat out. I mean, I know that I put a lot of hate out on him, but he is garbage. I hate him so much. Okay, that was a little bit more directed.
Why do you really hate him so much? Like,
because he's okay. I'll flat out. I'll tell you. I hate running backs that let me down.
Sure.
So that's why I don't like Amir Abdullah, because I haven't seen like him be awesome. Mm-hmm. Running backs, to me, like, I want to see you just be freaking amazing, and then I will love you. It doesn't matter what team, even Zeke. Like, I love the fact that he's good, but I hate the fact he's on the Cowboys. So that kind of balances things out. But outside of that, like, I just love running backs. I don't care. Like, I mean, it's like running backs, and then it's way, way, way down. You start looking at quarterbacks and wide receivers for me. Like, running backs are super important to me as far as, fantasy. And that's where I put a lot of my like energy as far as what I'm doing research. So when you got a guy that his first year, he went in basically like, well, he's replacing LaDainian Tomlinson. He's a first round pick. People were taking him in like 5th pick overall, 6th or 7th pick overall. And he's just barely cracked 1,000 yards, I think, once. Mm-hmm. Like, I mean, like I hate wasted talent with running backs, and he's a wasted talent. And on a more personal note, it was either keep Ryan Matthews or keep DeMarco freaking Murray, and they picked Ryan Matthews. I just want to move on. I just want to move on.
Yeah, I mean, you have some seated hatred for him, so I get it. Puts a little bit more perspective onto it,
especially when you're a dual threat. Mm-hmm. You're a pass catcher and a running back, and you're in a system that's perfect for pass catching running backs, and you still can't get the job done. That just annoys me. Like, I just feel like he's just worthless.
Yeah. So we're talking about Blount's value right now in the startup draft. Do you think he holds any sort of dynasty value? So
I mean, he could
say you were an owner, not asking for myself, but say you were an owner of LeGarrette Blount and you had him in a dynasty league. With this news, would you be looking to move him?
Yes.
Yeah. What would you be looking to take? Like, what kind of value do you think he would hold?
Okay. If let's just play this, Romine. Okay. I wouldn't mind a guy like LeGarrette Blount on my team. Yeah. I would probably, if I were to do it, I would say, okay, if there isn't a specific player, like, I'd probably give up maybe, I mean, like, in our rookie draft, maybe a third. I mean, it almost seems like maybe a little bit too much, but I'm kind of looking at those touchdowns. I'm thinking, well, maybe I could get back into the 3rd round, so I could move another player, mm-hmm. or there's maybe like a number 2 wide receiver that, maybe I have like maybe 3 wide receivers that I'm kind of like, okay, well, I don't really want to keep all of these guys. They're pretty much the same player. I'm trying to clear some space. I'm trying to think. I don't know.
I actually have your team pulled up right now.
Okay, all right. Give me something.
So looking at your wide receivers, honestly, and this is in theory, like, you can't keep Odell Beckham in this league. He has to go back in because the way that our contracts are set up. But say you have like Dante Moncrief, Devontae Parker, Emmanuel Sanders, Sammy Watkins. Those are all kind of like grouped in place. Sammy Watkins maybe a little bit better, but you see what I'm saying? Like, would you be even willing to deal any sort of younger, unproven wide receiver for that kind of proven commodity?
Honestly, to me, like a decent trade in theory is the upside of Devontae Parker for, like he could be a bust. He could be, absolutely fantastic and finally kind of come out of kind of the mediocrity that he's been stuck in.
Mm-hmm.
And I can go and I can grab somebody if I'm just sure that it's like I'm a running back away. Like I'm a running back away from kind of, doing something. And I've got a lot of running backs, so like this is completely hypothetical, but if I needed, a number 2 guy,
yeah,
would I be willing to give up, and because when you name that list, I think Sammy Watkins is, like a little bit above all those guys, like you said. Dante Moncrief is kind of, he's like, his stat line is almost always 1-15-1. I mean, he has a catch for a touchdown almost like every game, which is okay, but in our league is not that great. So I would love it if I could get him for a Dante Moncrief, but I feel like there's a little bit more intrigue around Parker, and some of the news that's been coming out about Parker lately has been very positive.
Yeah.
So I could be looking to kind of cash in on that to get a guy like Blount, knowing that he's going to get those goal line carries. And so, I mean, yeah, that's kind of the player. Honestly, the kind of a Dante or Devontae Parker kind of player is probably what I'm looking at.
And, I'm not going to out anybody on this podcast. I don't know if he even listens, but another league mate of ours in our big league that we talk about all the time had sent me a trade offer for LeGarrette Blount today, which was Keenan Allen straight up. And I mean, how I feel about Keenan Allen. I like Keenan Allen.
You could say him. You could say him on this podcast because we talked about you on our podcast, so that's fine.
Oh, jeez.
We didn't say anything mean. We just said that if we wanted to boost our ratings, we probably should say mean stuff about you.
Yes.
That usually helps.
Oh, well, trust me, I know. I listened, and then I tried to quit, and I couldn't stop. It was like like an abusive relationship. I just kept going back for more. But that offer kind of does intrigue me. But as an owner of Blount, what I would be looking to do is package him with something else to get something better. And that's kind of how I would want to use this news, to maybe like upsell something else now, to take, maybe a commodity that's not as great and make it, a little bit more appealing to somebody to try to get something better.
See, I don't want to sound like that kind of sounds like a trade that Brent and I would make. I mean, if Brent's involved with anybody else, he'll get LeGarrette Blount for the third for Brandon Wilds. He'll get LeGarrette Blount for Brandon Wilds. But between him and I, usually they're a pretty fair trade. So so Brent, what would you say if I have LeGarrette Blount and I'm looking to move him? You need a running back too. What are you looking to get? Like, because I mean, usually the two of you and I, we both kind of go after those kind of interesting trades. Like, we usually don't do straight up trades, but usually they're a little interesting. What would you be looking at?
And this is all dependent on if Ryan Matthews is no longer on the Eagles. But I mean, initially, I just think LeGarrette Blount, probably a running back too, based on touchdowns.
Yep.
What I'm looking as far as an even trade, I was starting to think maybe a low end wide receiver too, but then I was like, man, there's still a lot of really good wide receiver twos at the very end of that range. And I'm almost thinking more like maybe a early wide receiver 3 to mid wide receiver 3. And that's where that Keenan Allen kind of falls into that kind of range there too. Even like an Emmanuel Sanders or maybe a Jarvis Landry, something like that.
Is more of a wide receiver too.
He is, but I mean, if you look at a list of wide receivers, I mean, you could go down the list to probably the 25 range and still get Emmanuel Sanders right around there. But
so are you looking at, I mean, because the guys that you just mentioned are actually ones that kind of had down years, but are much better wide receivers. Like, is that what you're kind of looking at? You're trying to get that guy that maybe had an off year and somebody's trying to unload him, and you're getting rid of a guy that you are basically getting rid of for a year because he's probably going to be out of the league, but you might end up with a guy that is like Landry, that's a PPR monster. I mean, I think that's a great strategy to take. I mean, you want to go after somebody that could be great, but is still going to be productive regardless.
Kind of going back to what Romine was saying, you know, packaging maybe Blunt with a Landry to improve your wide receiver situation, get a wide receiver that's better than Landry.
Right.
You know, maybe get a top 10 or 15 wide receiver just as an improvement to your wide receiver core kind of thing.
Okay.
Right.
Okay.
Like ideally, like I would offer this, like, and there's another owner that has Amari Cooper in my league. I would be looking to package.
Good luck.
There's no way it's happening, but that's what I would be looking for, is to take like an up and coming player.
Okay. So you're looking at packaging, like in this hypothetical situation, LeGarrette Blount and Jarvis Landry to get a guy like Amari Cooper.
That'd be ideal. I think that you could maybe do it for, I don't know. Do you think you could pull off like a Des Bryant or something like that?
I don't know about that, because, well, I don't know, because I'm like looking at it and, you know, okay, if I had Des Bryant and you offered me LeGarrette Blount and Jarvis Landry, I'm looking at Jarvis Landry, PPR monster, yeah, in a PPR league. And I'm looking at LeGarrette Blount, who can get the touchdowns. He's not going to be my number one guy. I'm not trying to have him be that guy. And you know, if you know you have a Zeke or a David Johnson, then that means you can get a bunch of kind of question mark running backs to see what you can get. That you've shored up that your running back situation, and to get that and a Jarvis Landry to give up, honestly, if I had Amari Cooper, I would consider it. I would consider that.
And I don't think it's a bad deal. Like, no,
I don't think so at all. Because Landry could honestly be better than Amari Cooper. If they can get a quarterback.
It's that upside.
Would you do it for Des Bryant though too?
I'm not the biggest fan of Des Bryant with Dak.
Because, I mean, Des Bryant is actually going earlier in drafts than Amari Cooper is.
Honestly, I would, because of the chemistry, I would almost rather get rid of Des Bryant than Amari Cooper. But that's also, there's a little bit of, you know, bias in that.
Right. What about T.Y. Hilton?
If I'm being... I don't know. T.Y. Hilton.
What about like Jordy Nelson or?
See, that's what I'm saying.
Yes.
Like honestly, any of those wide receiver twos.
I think that I would get rid of a guy like Jordy Nelson just because he had, you know, an off year by getting hurt, and then he kind of had the, you know, well, not off year, he wasn't even playing, but then he had, you know, kind of the weird year that he had last year. His final numbers were great, but you know how I feel about, you know, final numbers. Like, I want consistency, and he wasn't super consistent. So, I mean, honestly, I also love Jarvis Landry. Right. I mean, the fact that he's a part of this conversation is kind of like skewing it, regardless of who you throw up there. Right. Like, I think the only players that I would be like, hell no, would be Antonio Brown, Julio Jones,
Odell
Beckham,
AJ Green,
Mike Evans, like those kind of guys. Once you step off of that, I think that Des Bryant is like the first of that next tier in my mind. Almost any of those guys you could probably talk me into letting go of to get Blount and Jarvis Landry.
Yep.
Kind of wish that I could get that deal done, but I don't have a player to do that with as far as running backs.
Wait, you know what? We'll probably talk at some point. I'm gonna exercise this as much as possible, because like it's
a good strategy to try to employ.
I think what I'm going to start doing is looking at my team and asking guys on the podcast, because I know you have to answer realistically. So only going to talk about players on my team from here on out.
Oh, so. Boy.
But we just spent 25 minutes talking about LeGarrette Blount and all his fantasy goodness. Let's look at the draft a little bit.
For RB2.
Yeah, right.
Watch him get suspended for 8 games or something.
Don't put that kind of evil on him, man.
Well, that evil he brought on himself.
I was gonna say
really,
he's a good guy,
kinda...
but really he hasn't proven that. So, Brent, are you looking at our draft? You got it pulled up?
Yeah, I got it.
Well, you want to give me? Do you want to give me your favorite team out of all those?
Non-your teams.
Yeah,
you can't vote for yourself.
You can't vote for yourself.
Oh, you want to go through each round again? I'll take a look here.
Yeah, I mean, I don't really want to go through all the rounds. We went through the first 5 on the last show, so we're only through round 11 now. We just made the turn to 12, so we still have kickers and defenses to draft, so that basically throws out the last 2 rounds. So we have 2 more rounds of kind of sleeper picks and guys that we think could do something, but I'm not going to read them all off. It's just a hodgepodge of different names.
I mean, I don't want to, talk nice about BC's teams here, but his first team is pretty solid. I mean, you got Le'Veon Bell, you got Leonard Fournette, and kind of Frank Gore's kind of your backup, and then you got DeAndre Hopkins, Larry Fitzgerald, Stephon Diggs. Getting Stephon Diggs in the 6th round, I mean, I know that passing game's not consistent, but he's a good player. I mean, he's a decent player, and getting him in round 6, that's pretty good. I mean, he has the ability to be a top 10 player. He's in stretches. He has shown that. The problem is that he isn't consistent because that team isn't consistent.
Right.
And so that's why, it's a warranted, round 6, but he has the ability to be, a round 3 kind of guy, essentially. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Would you rather have Corey Davis or Stephon Diggs?
Corey Davis, because he's got a better quarterback.
Yeah. Even though you don't really know anything, you haven't seen it yet.
Yeah, I mean, I've just got the biggest man crush on Corey Davis. It's kind of hard for me to. But then,
it's definitely a solid team for sure.
Honestly, I think his worst pick is Robert Woods because I think that guy's garbage.
I mean, it's the 11th round.
Yeah, I mean, he could be good in LA too.
You don't know. Like in the 11th round, I don't think you can really hold somebody to their picks.
No, I'm just saying that I like all of his picks except for Robert Woods. That's the only thing I'm saying. I'm not saying it was a bad pick. I'm just saying that
he's got Matt Ryan as quarterback. He's got Hunter Henry as his tight end, which could be good. Like,
yeah, I mean, I would really love it if San Diego would just say, Antonio Gates, I'm sorry, bud, but you're done. Because I think Hunter Henry has the ability to be a top 5 tight end. I really do. And the problem is that they're wasting, they're kind of wasting time here, but at the same time, and it's only his 2nd year, so.
Yeah.
If I had to pick the top 2 teams, or even the top 1, it's close between Van Cleef's 2nd team and Romine's 3rd team. I think Romine's 3rd team squeaks it out slightly. The thing about Van Cleef's 2nd team is he actually shored up with Lamar Miller and Foreman, and then Ware and Hunt. So he's got that backfield solidified with the handcuffs.
Yeah.
Problem is, it's like a waiting game on seeing who's actually going to start.
See, but the thing is, I like that idea. The problem is I don't like how high those picks are. I don't like the fact that if you're going after, if you're going after Spencer Ware, you're taking Kareem Hunt in the 8th round. Like, that seems like that's just really high to me to be grabbing a handcuff. See, I want to be grabbing a handcuff in like the 12th or 13th round here. Like, I don't want to be grabbing my handcuff that early.
It's hard to do that anymore, though. Like, that's the NFL now has made this for fantasy. Like, you have to overreach if you want to make sure that you get your handcuff. And that's why I don't usually end up with my handcuffs, because I don't want to draft them until later, and they end up going before I get the chance to do it. So that could be, like Brent was saying, the difference between my teams. I don't.
But here's the thing: is that all right? Spencer Ware, I guess, is in a little bit different situation because he wasn't amazing. But I feel like Lamar Miller, he is the number 1 guy. I'm not knocking him for getting Dante Foreman in the 11th round. But let's just, for argument's sake, if he were to draft him at like 9th, in the ninth round or something like that. Like, you can wait usually on – okay. You don't necessarily need to pick up your handcuff in the draft because after 3 weeks of somebody like Foreman sitting on somebody's bench waiting for something to happen and nothing actually happening, they're going to probably drop him because they've got injuries. Bye weeks are coming up, something. And so you're able to go after that player. And so that's why I don't really condone overdrafting your backup unless you're in a situation where it's very muddy, which I guess I would say that Spencer Ware is a little muddy, but I don't think that you because I mean we're talking that's kind of how the NFL is, and you're right, but at the same time I don't think that you should overreach for your handcuffs because if your handcuff, if you're drafting a guy in the first few rounds and you need to draft a handcuff in still single digits, that means you should not have made that draft choice that early on that player.
See, that's kind of where I agree too. I thought Spencer Ware went a little too high based on the murky waters with Kareem
in the fourth
Hunt
round.
breathing down.
I think that's too high as well.
Yeah.
I mean, if you need to pick up your backup in the 8th round, I think that it should have been a pick that you completely steered away from. Like, if it's that murky, it shouldn't have even been made in those first few picks. Those top 4 picks, if you're already thinking about, well, he might not be the starter in 3 or 4 weeks into the season, it's not a good pick.
Yeah, would you rather have Spencer Ware or Isaiah Crowell?
I guess Crowell's a little more intriguing to me because Crowell has, I don't know.
Yes,
I think Crowell's more intriguing to me than Spencer Ware. I kind of feel like Spencer Ware is not the best running back on his team. He may even not be. There are points where I thought that Sharkandrick West was better than him last year. So, and there were definitely 2 years ago where I thought Sharkandrick West was going to be the next guy. So the fact they brought in yet another guy, and I don't know, I'm not super high on Spencer Ware. So
yeah. Let's see. So that team right there, Brent, that we were talking about, though, it was Jameis Winston, Lamar Miller, Spencer Ware, Paul Perkins, Kareem Hunt, Deontay Foreman, or Deonta, I guess, as his running backs. Then Mike Evans, Doug Baldwin, Brandon Marshall, John Ross, and David Njoku as his tight end. His actual last 4 picks that he's made have been all rookies. So
yeah,
that team, it's got a lot of upside. But and then which did you say my third team?
Yep.
So that one I got Russell Wilson, LaShawn McCoy, Mark Ingram, CJ Prosise, Danny Woodhead, and then my wide receivers are T.Y. Hilton, Demaryius Thomas, Devontae Adams, and Tyrell Williams so far.
I don't.
Greg Olsen.
I kind of disagree on this.
Well, the only thing with that team is I think you still need to shore up your running backs because I don't feel like you have a solid running back 2.
No.
Yeah, so how do you shore up? You know what I mean? Like, how do you really shore up your running back at that point? Like, there's really nothing you can do other than taking shots at people.
I don't know. Like, okay. I'm not sure how this... Okay, so round 5 would have been straight across. Okay, you lost out. Okay, Isaiah Crowell went before. I don't know. I don't like. Okay, you picked Devontae Adams ahead of. I mean, I'm not a huge fan of Amir Abdullah, but Dalvin Cook. Yeah. I'd rather have a guy like that because he's drafted high to be a potential starter.
See, I'd rather have Devontae Adams over Dalvin Cook. personally speaking.
But like, here's the problem. It's like, okay, Danny Woodhead, injury prone, CJ Prosise, injury prone, Mark Ingram, injury prone and production illiterate.
Is Mark Ingram really injury prone?
He has been in the past. I don't know if he has the last couple seasons, but I mean, it's just like LaShawn McCoy, one of the best running backs in the league, and then you have maybe no one else to really start.
See, like,
and that's why I don't like that. You
guys are so down on Mark Ingram. I still think Mark Ingram's an okay RB2.
Mark Ingram already okay. Wait, okay. They were talking about trading him. That's how much they don't like him. For a backup center. For a backup center. Okay? For a backup center.
Who was talking about it?
Like every media outlet? What are you talking
about? Every media. It was
the Eagles, yeah.
I mean, it was Bleed Green. Who was it that said it though? Like,
Bleed Green. It was in like ESPN. It was on Bleacher Report. Like, I mean, that was everywhere. For
right, Jason. But who were they quoting as saying it? You know what I mean? Like, it wasn't like the Saints came out and were like, we're actively shopping Mark Ingram for backup centers.
Let me put this in. If you love your running back, you don't go out and get a 30-year-old Adrian Peterson and draft a guy that is like one of the higher end running backs of the draft. You don't. And then you don't talk about possibly trading him. I mean, they are ready to move on from him, and they might still move on from him. And maybe that draft of that pick will be even better because they send him somewhere. So I mean, I don't know, but I don't know how you can still look at Mark Ingram as a legitimate RB2.
Yeah. I don't know. Maybe it's just because of my total lack of faith in Adrian Peterson.
I understand that, but I think that first off, they have a piss poor running game as it is, and they got more mouths to feed. That just sounds terrible to me.
I mean, they don't really have that many more mouths to feed. They added in Kamara. They got rid of Cadet.
Who cares? Okay, Kamara is better.
Tavares Cadet caught 50 balls last year, or right around there.
Well, okay, but I mean,
and that's what Kamara is coming to do. So I really don't think Kamara is going to take away from Ingram at all. I'd be more worried about Peterson taking away from him, and I don't think that he's going to. Like, I don't think that he'll be able to stay healthy to do it.
I mean, I don't know.
But I can't see the Saints trading him. Like, I don't think that makes sense from their standpoint. Unless they hate him like you say they do.
I think they do. I think, I mean, I don't know how you can't look at the entire situation as it is and say they love Mark Ingram.
I never said that they love him. Like, I think that he's serviceable once again. Like, I think that he fits well into that system that they run, and he was successful last year. He's a good pass catcher. He's not a terrible football player like you say he is. He's not great. He's not even, I wouldn't say he's good, but like, he's serviceable. And as an RB2, like, and that's where I'm struggling this year already looking at drafts. Like, when it gets to that RB2, I think they're all very similar. Like, there's a lot of question marks. If I could get like David Johnson, Le'Veon Bell, I feel like I could maybe shore up in the RB2 and feel okay about it, but it's tough.
I mean, honestly, I feel like that's why going no RB is a ridiculous idea. Like, yeah. I mean, I truly feel like there are so many wide receivers and there are so few backs that can be like legitimate RB1s or legitimate RB2s. Why would you stray away from that and just go after these like streaming players? Like, it just doesn't make sense to me. I just can't get behind it.
Yeah.
Actually, okay, so just an FYI, last year was the first time that Mark Ingram has played all 16 games. I'm sorry. No, in 2012 he played all 16, but he only started 5. But he's never started all 16 games. So just an FYI. Last year was his best year, and he barely got over 1,000 yards. 2014, he had 9 touchdowns. That's the most of his career. Last year, he had 6. I mean,
it's mediocre.
He had 46.
and I'm not disagreeing with that.
Catches, and 4 touchdowns. So he did help out his touchdown because he never had a receiving touchdown until last year, and he had 4. So I mean, he helped himself in that area at least. But
he also caught 50 balls the year before that for 400 yards. So like the touchdowns may just be a little bit more of a lucky thing because he had 4 20+ yard touchdowns receiving last year.
Oh my gosh, dude, really?
Yeah, but he gets catches. Like I don't think that they're going to replace him. And I don't think that they're going to be able to trade him because I think that that'd be a dumb move for them. Because if anything happens to Peterson, them putting complete faith in Alvin Kamara is a terrible idea.
Okay, you're talking about a team that when they run the ball, they lose. Legitimately. When they run the football, they lose. So all they need are pass catchers. And he's a decent pass catcher, but you just said that they drafted a guy to do that. So
how well is that? I don't think teams though. Like it doesn't always work out. Like it's not like he was drafted in the first 10 picks. Alvin Kamara was a 3rd round pick. He's not Christian McCaffrey.
Okay, but to be fair, 3rd round in the last 10, 15 years is almost a pathway to starting. So I mean, if you're drafted in those first 3 rounds, you're almost guaranteed that you're going to be at least have a look at being the starter.
I don't know. I think that's a pretty bold statement. I don't have any sort of stats to back it up, but I feel like there's probably a lot more running backs drafted in the first 3 rounds that aren't necessarily said that they're going to be a starter. They may have a chance at some time. Like it's normally a time with like a team with an aging running back, or maybe one that hasn't proven anything or injury prone. So they might have a chance to be a starter. And honestly, like there aren't that many running back positions that are completely shored up. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Look at the ones that are getting drafted. There's only a handful of teams with running backs that you're like, oh, this guy is for sure going to be the starter for the whole year. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I'm going through. I just went over to like 2014. I'm just curious to just kind of play. Man, there were no running back. Okay. Oh God, this was a bad year. But just to be on Bishop Sankey, terrible, but he was a starter. Jeremy Hill, terrible, was a starter. Carlos Hyde, terrible. Well, not terrible, injury prone, but is a starter. Charles Sims. Okay, that's 3rd round, but there was a lot of talk about him being a starter if Doug Martin didn't kind of fix his ways, I guess.
I think you're reaching on that one a little bit.
That they were talking up Charles Sims like he was the next, Adrian Peterson. Oh my God, that's all they did that year. All they talked about was Charles Sims. All I heard about was him. Trey Mason, we can't judge him because he is a schizophrenic. But he was the starter, but then they drafted Gurley. And we're still in and then Terrence West in the 3rd round, Jerick McKinnon in the 3rd round. All these guys were starters.
That's a good list of guys you got there, though. That's worked out really well for people. I'm
not saying that they're fantastic, but what I'm saying is that all those guys started. All of them. But what I'm saying is the fact is that if you draft a guy, and I realize I'm just going off of one season here, but I know that I'm coming from a place of like reality where if you're drafted in the first few rounds, you're going to get a shot. Like the first player that really is like, oh gosh, you never were drafted to be a running back is a supplementary pick by Pittsburgh in Dree Archer. Like that, I mean, that was never meant to be your starter, and I mean that's a supplementary pick, so that's kind of creeping into the 4th round essentially. So all I'm saying is that if you're drafted in those first few rounds, it's a good chance that you're going to get a shot. And so if you're drafting them that high, a running back that high, you're drafting them to possibly be your starter.
Brent, will you talk now so I don't have to listen to Alex anymore? Say something about this. If you agree with him,
a quick question just to
Yeah.
similar kind of topic, but there's rumors out there that Mark Ingram could be going somewhere else. There's rumors that Ryan Matthews could be getting cut. There's rumors that Jeremy Hill, now that Mixon's there, could be getting cut or traded. If you had to pick, which one of those three would you take? Would it be Jeremy Hill, Ryan Matthews, or Mark Ingram? And let's say they get traded to an actual team that needs a starting running back. I'll just throw out like Baltimore, for instance.
Oh, gross.
Which one of those three would you choose? In fact, put them in order.
Okay. I think, honestly, I would probably put Jeremy Hill ahead, because I think that he is the only one that's actually shown to be a force at some point in time. I don't think that he was consistently a force. I don't think that he is a force currently, but there was a point in time where he seemed like the real deal. Okay. Then I think you go Mark Ingram. Then there's a layer of garbage. And then there is Ryan Matthews. I mean, granted, you basically threw out three players that only Romine would collect and put on his team.
Funny.
It's true, because this is, you're probably listening to this on a podcast, but the faces he's making at me about where these guys should go, you could just hear from his facial expressions. He's like, "I'll take those bitches in the first round. I love them."
I wasn't even listening.
Oh, you were listening because you were grimacing at every word I said. Don't try to push it off like I'm not listening to you. Bullshit.
You said that you would take Jeremy Hill over Mark Ingram.
Yeah.
I think that makes you sound stupid.
Okay. Are we gonna play? Because usually numbers are on my side when I like talk about these things, and numbers are almost always not on your side.
Right.
Jeremy Hill. Oh, wow. I didn't even spell Hill correctly. Jesus Christ.
And Brent, you were saying that mostly because these guys have all been rumored to have been possibly
these
going
guys,
to new
by the time
locales.
training camp starts, potentially these three guys might not even be on a team. Or they could be on another team with better fantasy value or worse fantasy value.
I don't think there's any way that the Saints actually trade Mark Ingram. I just don't think that makes sense.
Okay, so his rookie year, with a 5.1 yard average, Jeremy Hill had 1,100 yards, 9 touchdowns.
Okay.
That's by far better than any year Mark Ingram has ever had.
What did Jeremy Hill do last year?
Jeremy Hill last year was 839 yards with 9 touchdowns. He's had 9 or more touchdowns every single year, which is the most amount that Mark Ingram has ever had. And then you add on to the fact that, he doesn't have the rushing yards. Hill doesn't have the rushing yards that he had last year, but still Hill has his best year is still better than Mark Ingram's best year.
Jeremy Hill is very LeGarrette Blunt-like.
I mean, he gets touchdowns. Because, he doesn't catch a lot of touchdowns. He doesn't really catch a lot of balls. But, so Ingram's got him there. But other than that, on these stats, tell me where Mark Ingram is better than Jeremy Hill, other than catching more balls. And the only reason that that's the case is because they had Gio Bernard, who, in my mind, if he wasn't so injury prone, would be better than Jeremy Hill, and I will fight for that to this day. But
so if Jeremy Hill was going somewhere where I thought that he was going to be the starter, I could see that argument taking him over Mark Ingram. I get behind that.
Would you rather? And this will be the real test. Let's say you send Jeremy Hill or Mark Ingram to Oakland. Okay, let's just get rid of Marshawn Lynch. Let's get rid of Washington and Richards.
Mm-hmm.
Though, what guy do you like better? Do you legitimately like Mark Ingram better in that situation than Jeremy Hill?
I feel like it's pretty coin flip. Like, I think that's a good situation for both of them. And like you've said, I think that Jeremy Hill's a scorer. Like he does find ways to get in the end zone. He's a power runner, but I'd be fine with both of them in that situation.
Or a little bit more realistic, either one of them in Green Bay. Who would you rather have?
Yeah.
And I'll say right off the bat, I like Hill because they need more of a goal line guy than the pass catcher.
All right. I may be sliding slightly to your side.
Whoa.
I know.
Wow. I don't know if I've ever heard you say that before.
Well, I am, unlike you, able to admit when something has changed my mind slightly.
Bullshit. Oh, please.
Well, I think that's at least 1-0 now, right?
I mean, I have changed my mind in many situations. I mean, I have opened my mouth and then openly admitted that I was being an idiot. Delaney Walker comes to mind. I have openly said that I was dead wrong when I started coughing up the worst facts ever because I thought he was Jared Cook.
That was actually pretty funny.
Yeah.
You did own up to that. I'm sorry. I apologize, Alex. No problem. So, okay, so that team's not that good. Anyway, that what we got at, like, that team sucks.
Out of all that, we just found out that Jeremy Hill's just like LeGarrette Blount.
That's hashtag analysis.
I'm trying to think of another. I kind of like Roman. I like your team too a little bit. I like the fact you've got Odell Beckham, you've got Allen Robinson. Golden Tate came on, late into the year. I think he's kind of, proven to me maybe they're number one. I don't know if Marvin Jones just isn't very consistent. And then you've got Ajayi, you've got Crowell, and then you have Jaquiz Rogers, which could be, it could be. He's interesting to me for some weird reason. And I think it's just because they have a good line. He looked really good last year, and then you fucked it all up by drafting Thomas Rawls. But I'll let you have a pass on that one.
It was the 10th round, right? Like it was a.
Honestly, I don't want anything to do, and I think I drafted Lacey, right? Yeah, but legitimately, see, that's the thing. That's why I don't like no RB because my number one guy is Eddie Lacy, even though I drafted him behind Joe Mixon.
Yeah,
it's
true.
I don't like no
it's
RB.
Hard.
It just doesn't make sense to me.
The running back is a hard position this year, and I don't know if it's going to continue to look this way as we do our mock drafts, but I continue through all my teams. I don't like my running backs.
Do you feel like
them?
This is kind of a question, and I want both of you guys to answer. Does it feel right now like there are a lot more teams like Baltimore was last year, where there's just so many positions that you're like, who's going to be here? Like they drafted a bunch. I mean, even bring it down to, like Tampa Bay at their tight end position. I thought that was okay. Cameron Brate looked great. And then they went out and they got the best tight end in the draft who could be, a top 5 caliber tight end. And then you're like, wait, so who's gonna be the starter? Like what are they gonna do? Like there's just so many positions, and I'm like, I have no idea. Everybody's Baltimore. It's frustrating.
Yeah, there's a lot of question marks this year. And you're right, and that's looking at those teams, I think it does. It makes it harder to draft, but it makes you, or at least it's made me question a lot more of it. And I like to take strong stances because it's fun. It's fun to argue about stuff like this. But realistically, I haven't been happy with any running back squad that I've put together. I've been happy with a few guys, but I have a hard time putting together a squad that I like, and that's why I think I tend more to try to put together a wide receiver core that I love, and then I'm okay with it.
Well, and I kind of feel like that's why we overdraft our rookies, because we're like, okay, I could go after like a CJ Procise like you got, or you can go after I don't know. I'm trying to think of a rookie that kind of went around that way. Oh crap! I don't have it pulled up. Or you could go. Okay, here's a better thing. You could go a Dalvin Cook, or you can go a Robert Kelly. You can go. Could you go Paul Perkins, or do you want to wait and try to grab maybe a Kareem Hunt on the chance that he will be better than Paul Perkins? I mean, there's a lot of this kind of like, okay, I almost trust the unknown more than what I have in front of me kind of thing. And that's why I think we tend to go a little bit higher on our running or our rookies than maybe the general public will tend to go, just because we all like that unknown versus mediocrity.
Yeah. Brent, you feel like that's kind of the way this has been?
Well, I mean, one of my teams, and I was the only team to do this, but I started out the draft drafting 3 wide receivers, which I think are very good wide receivers, but then look at my running backs after that. I loaded up on them, especially in a PPR league. You know, Carlos Hyde has question marks, but he's my number 1 right now.
Yeah.
Theo Riddick, you know he's solid in PPR. Darren Sproles, he's solid in PPR. I got Doug Martin and Kenneth Dixon, who are both suspended, but could be the starters when they come out of the suspension.
Yeah.
So there's value later on, especially in PPR drafts, but you run that risk, I guess. Like, you don't have solid running back 1s or solid running back 2s, it seems like, when you get further down that. But
the crazy part is that because of just history's sake, you could have a decent Carlos Hyde and we'll say Theo Riddick starting your season, and then you can wait until Martin comes back, and then maybe Dixon will kind of become what we've been talking about him. Or week 1, you could literally only have Darren Sproles because of injuries or suspensions.
Very, very true.
I mean, that's kind of the crazy part about those guys right there. Like, it could be okay, or you could be looking at starting Darren Sproles and some random person that you got in like the 12th or 13th round.
Yeah, and realistically, like there's just so many question marks that's what you're looking at on a lot of teams. Like, there aren't going to be a ton of teams that feel really comfortable at running back this year. And I think you're right, Alex. I think that's just the way that it is. Like, a lot more teams are setting it up like that, though.
Which, I mean, I don't know. I have no idea what the numbers are, but I feel like teams are either running as much as they used to, or even a little bit more. It's just a little bit more spread out. And so I think that's why, if you don't get those guys, like if you don't get your, David Johnson, your Le'Veon Bell, then you need to kind of figure out a plan if you're not going to go with those, you're not going to go running back. I think that if a player like DeMarco Murray is still available, you take him. Don't let him pass you by to get a wide receiver. I just feel like, yes, you're probably missing some points on the fact that, will Julio Jones finish the season with more points than DeMarco Murray? Maybe. It depends on your league and everything like that. But is your team going to be better with Julio Jones, or is your team going to be better with DeMarco Murray? And that's kind of what you've got to figure out. And if you think it's going to be better with Julio Jones, figure out who you can get later on in the draft and not spend too much on, like a rookie or something like that maybe is a little unknown, and see how you're going to build that team. I think that's kind of the trick to it, because my no RB team I'm not super thrilled with, just because I don't like what I ended up getting.
Yeah, I agree. Well, I think that we should probably go ahead and wrap up this show, and hopefully Van Cleve actually is okay and will join us again next week. But kind of what I would like to see us do next week as we finish up this mock draft, I would like to look at where all these players went, and possibly like each of us pick which would be our ideal position to draft, and then look and see how we could have made that team better based off of the other picks that were made. Like, if you were able to, if you drafted the player here, but you could have drafted a different player, maybe put together what our optimal team would have been. So we'll talk about some more, but next week's show we'll be finishing up this mock draft talk. So hop on the old Twitter machine, follow us, 4 Horsemen Pod, get on, send us an email, fourhorsemanpod at gmail.com. But thanks for stopping out and listening to us, and we will catch you again next week. Peace.